What is going on, everyone? This is the Talking Niners podcast, part of the Blue Wire Hustle Network. I am your host, Kobe Ransom, and joining me one last time from his usual setup for a little while is Niner Wire Sam. Sam, what is going on, my guy?
It's good, man. I'm moving out to college on Sunday, which is crazy to think, but got to do a pod one last time. This is not going to be my usual setup anymore. So, Kittle jersey, it's been real. Tom Rathman, George Kittle signed picture, it's been real. The blanket, it's been real for all of that. But you know what? New chapters are coming. I can't wait. And new chapters for the Niners are also on the way with all the rookies. Preseason underway. We're almost to the regular season, 1 week closer. I'm always ready to talk Niners. Let's get it.
All right, so I don't know if anyone heard, but the 49ers played a football game last Saturday. And there was a certain someone that everyone was excited to see, and that was the kicker, Robbie Gould. Obviously, everyone was eager to see how he was going to – no, I'm playing. There's a certain quarterback who wears the number 5 that everyone had their eye on Saturday. And he played the rest of the first half in a series in the third quarter. So I'll start with you, Sam, because, I haven't got to hear your thoughts from the game. What were your thoughts from Trey Lance's debut?
Yeah, well, Trey Lance, in my opinion, he had an okay debut. I'm not going to say it's the best thing ever. And I do think it's not the best thing ever because of that second-team O-line, because he was playing with a ton of second-teamers. The second-team O-line was really helped. I mean, it really just hurt him a lot, I should say. But other than that, you saw those flashes of what Trey Lance is and why we drafted him as the number 3 overall pick. You saw those throws, the Trent Sherfield throw. That's the one that everyone's talking about. My favorite throw, and a lot of people's favorite throw, was the throw to Richie James, which Richie James dropped. He's probably going to get cut after that. I mean, he's playing with second teamers, and we're going to talk about more if he should play with the first team later on in this episode. And I think you can already get where I'm going with this. But other than that, Trey Lance had a phenomenal debut. I wouldn't say it's like the best debut ever, but it was an okay debut for looking at it on paper. But in reality, it was a pretty decent debut, to say the least. Can't complain too much. I could have been better, yeah. But, at the end of the day, it's week 1 preseason. I think at the end of the day that the 49ers are still going to stick with Trey Lance. No one's writing him off at this point. You've seen those flashes of potential. So overall, an okay debut. I said phenomenal later on because you just saw those phenomenal throws. And, I mean, when you look at that, you can say it's phenomenal debut. Some people saying it's okay. I'm saying it's okay for now.
Yeah, I mean, there were some good and there were some bad. I don't think really anyone can dispute that. He was 5 of 14, 128 yards and a touchdown. We saw the fantastic deep ball throw to Trent Sherfield on his second series, still in the first quarter. Also, Kyle Shanahan lied. By the way, he said he wouldn't work with the first team in that game. He did work with the first team O-line for 2 series. So Kyle Shanahan is a liar confirmed. But yeah,
as always, he's lied about everything when he's been here. That is the one big takeaway from this game that we can now confirm and is not debatable, that Kyle Shanahan is a liar.
Kyle is a liar confirmed. But yeah, we saw on the first drive, we saw play action. He ended up getting out of the pocket. He had Trent Sherfield for a second, didn't want to throw it. Scrambled out of the pocket, saw Ayuk hit him with a nice throw, but Ayuk dropped it. Probably won't happen often. And then the next series, well, on that series still, he got sacked because Brunskill got pushed back, stepped on Trey Sermon's foot, ended up getting pushed over by Chris Jones, and then he sacked Trey Lance in the first drive. Move on to the second drive, get to play action, 1 play, 80 yards, touchdown. Big time throw. You see exactly what he can offer for this offense. You see just the effortlessness of the throw he made to get the ball downfield to Trent Sherfield once he got behind the safety. And it's an easy touchdown. And those are the things that Niner fans, at least, from the Shanahan era, are not used to seeing. And Trey Lance really offered that up to you in the first quarter to show you exactly why the Niners drafted him and traded what they traded to get him. Now, obviously, moving along to the rest of the game, there were obviously some drops. His stat line doesn't look as good as it could look because of those drops. But there are times when they brought pressure and Lance missed some guys over the middle. I know one play he had Wayne Gallman on an in cut from the backfield. No, he was play out wide. He was in the slot. And he missed them. There were some other throws. He had a throw where he didn't see the corner, who was kind of lurking and got in the passing window and should have picked off that pass. Another pass that could have got picked off. I think it was on his last series, throwing towards Juwan Jennings. Could Jennings have stepped up and tried to help his quarterback out and come back to the ball? Yeah, he could have, but at the same time, he was late. Just another throw that could have got picked off, and you got to be careful with. So there was some good and there was some bad, and that's kind of what you expect from Trey Lance. He's a rookie after all, and he didn't play football for a little over a year. So it's been a while. He's probably knocking off some rust. Getting into some game action is obviously different than practice. One thing I noticed from seeing the clips from practice was that, the defensive lineman obviously can't hit the quarterback. So, like, a lot of times guys coming off the edge are running past him and not towards him. And obviously you just don't have to evade pressure as I guess it's easier to not get hit, obviously, in practice than it would be in the game. In the game, you got to actually try to avoid those pressures. You're actually there's guys on the other side trying to kill you. So, just from that being said, I feel like throughout that game, he was real comfortable early on. We saw 2 play action passes from him, and then, early on, 2 of his first 3 series, and after that, we didn't see much more of him on the move. We saw 1 boot, which was a touchdown to Sherfield, and after that, we didn't see any more of him really, on the move or anything like that. Obviously, no zone reads, anything like that, and it's not surprising because Shanahan's not going to, put all that out there in the preseason. We know he can run. The league knows he can run. His teammates know he can run. They know that he is a threat outside the pocket with his legs. So it seemed as if, for me, the game plan was to keep Lance in the pocket and have him play within the pocket for the most part in that game, and really just put some things on tape that they can work through, in the film room, and just stuff that just to put on his to-do list. Like, hey, look, this happened on this play. Let's work on this. Let's work on that. That's what it kind of felt like. Just seeing is how he didn't get to use his legs much in that game versus seeing Justin Fields play. In his game, he used his legs quite often, getting out of the pocket and scrambling for first down. So that was one big thing I kind of noticed between his debut and Justin Fields, another guy that Niner fans are familiar with from the offseason.
Mm-hmm. And you said it best. This game was a shake-off for us, really not only for Trey Lance, but just for everyone. So it's really hard to get a fair assessment in preseason of everyone. You really like to see that. Preseason is better than training camp to get a full assessment. But if you want a great assessment of a player, wait till like week 1 or maybe even week 2 to check out that, because not everyone's going to play during the preseason. But I want to say what I wanted to say was the competition between Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, from this game, Jimmy Garoppolo only got 1 drive. I believe it was it a 3 and out, if I'm correct? It was something like that.
No, it wasn't 3 and out. They had the first play, I think, with a boot out to Debo. He got a first down, and I think they
punted after that or something.
They had a run for a first down, and then they had a first down again on the Ayuk pass, but it was a Charlie Warner pass interference and it brought it back to 3rd and long. And then Jimmy had nothing downfield, dumped it off to Sermon, and that was the end of the drive.
So basically they punted on that one. So not much from Jimmy Garoppolo. And so I don't think it's fair to assess him from this game. Trey Lance, I also don't think it's fair to assess him from this game as well, because you didn't get to see all of Lance. As Kobe just mentioned earlier, I mean, the best thing that you obviously know why you didn't get to see all of Trey Lance is Grant Cohn's questions to Kyle Shanahan. He has 3 questions, and Kyle Shanahan just gave the most – I don't know what the right word for it is. The one that's coming to his worst answers, even though it's not that bad of an answer. It's just like, we want to do this. He didn't want to really just say out there that there's more to Trey Lance, because I think we all know that there's more to Trey Lance, but you obviously don't want to show that in preseason, as Kobe kind of attested to earlier. So the competition right now, I will say, you saw why Niners fans want Trey Lance to be the starting quarterback. You saw why the media believes that Trey Lance will be the starting quarterback sooner than Kyle Shanahan says that Trey Lance will be the starting quarterback. So overall, I definitely think this did get you a better gauge of what you're looking at for the quarterback competition. It's going to be interesting to see if both guys play in the week 2 preseason game and how many snaps they get, because I think that will show us where it's going with the quarterback competition. If Jimmy Garoppolo gets a snap week 2, I think that kind of shows that there could be a bit more of a competition. If he doesn't get a snap, I think he has the job secured. And the more snaps Jimmy gets, the more the competition is heating up. That's what I want to say with that.
I don't know how true that might be. Knowing that there's only
I feel like my thing with that is like the more snaps because Garoppolo, you only got one snap. Trey Lance got a lot because Trey Lance is the backup quarterback. That's how preseason usually works. And now we only have 3 quarterbacks on this team. Josh Rosen got cut. So you're going to have to maybe they give it more snaps because Josh Rosen got cut. But at the end of the day, what it should be for these next 3 preseason games is Jimmy takes a snap. Jimmy takes one series during the first quarter. Trey Lance does the rest of the half, and Nate Sudfeld finishes off the game. The last game, I should say, it should be Lance for a quarter and Sudfeld for the rest of the game. If that's how you're going to play, if that's where you want to keep your quarterback safe, if that's where you think if Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter and Trey Lance is the backup. But if we're seeing 50-50 between the two in the last preseason game, then you know that something's up. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess how it would go in the second preseason game, normally the starting QBs do play in the second preseason game, so I would assume that Jimmy probably plays a full quarter, maybe one drive into the second quarter, depending on how things go. I think Lance probably gets the rest of the half, and then he probably gets the full third quarter. And then I think Sudfeld comes in the fourth. We'll see how much Lance maybe plays in the fourth, maybe, depending on how things go. But I think it'll probably go Jimmy 1 quarter, Lance 2 quarters, and then Sudfeld 1 quarter at the end. If I had to guess how it would go in the second preseason game, if it goes how it's gone in other preseasons. But getting into another point with Trey Lance is the fact that obviously we know Shanahan said that Trey Lance would work with the first team at some point. So far through practice, I think he's only had 4 snaps, and they're all have been designed runs. So he hasn't got a chance to really have a passing snap behind the first team offensive line. And just looking at that preseason game behind that second team offensive line, you kind of start to wonder if that's the best idea for Trey Lance to get better playing behind a line that can't really protect him for more than 2 seconds. And we saw, it doesn't matter how good you are at quarterback. We saw from Super Bowl 55, Tampa Bay and Kansas City, it doesn't matter how good you are without protection, you're not going to be able to do much. And as far as, Trey Lance progressing and being able to actually do things on that offense, you start to wonder if, not even really just on line, but just guys failing to get open, drop passes that we saw from Richie James and Craycraft, and just not having guys out there who can get open and catch passes for him, as well as not having good protection and also not very good run blocking either. The run blocking wasn't great for him during his stretch of playing in that second preseason game. They didn't get much going on the ground either. So just seeing is how, just seeing how that plays out, it feels like, it's about time to get an accurate, kind of judgment of where Trey Lance is at right now, as far as, whether or not he can play, week 1 or not for the Niners. I feel like you got to put him on that first team line with the first team weapons and see how he does, because I just don't think he has much of a chance. And obviously there are things he could have did better in that game, but just I feel like as time went on and that second team line was really struggling, he was starting to kind of speed up a little bit in his head and just kind of starting to rush things and starting to force passes. And I feel like that just doesn't happen if he's behind the first team line with better protection. He can kind of feel a little more comfortable in the pocket to get through his progressions and make better throws. There was a couple throws in there where he didn't set his feet correctly before trying to fire a pass off, and that led him to being inaccurate. It just feels like you could potentially get him into some bad habits. Now, obviously this is what Kyle is doing. Maybe this is how he wanted it to go. Obviously, Kyle said he didn't want Lance to be perfect. He wanted him to have things to work on, things to look at, things to improve upon. But it just feels like we're getting really close to the time that Lance needs to be getting some snaps with the first team.
Yeah, totally. If you want to get a fair assessment of Trey Lance, you have to do it with the first team. And let's just go through that second team offensive line real quick. You got Jalen Moore, who I tweeted out this morning. Jalen Moore, I believe that the plan was for him to be the guard and cut the left guard on that second team offensive line, Colt Mckibbins, because that dude, I don't think the Niners believe in him anymore, and that's really hard to see him on that second team offensive line. I have him making the team, Colt Mckibbins, but I think he's going to get cut for someone else who gets cut earlier on in the season. I think the Niners are going to give up on Mckibbins. And also you have Sean Coleman in there. Decent, not really anything. Dakota Shepley, he hasn't played an NFL. That was his first time playing an NFL snap, if I'm pretty sure, or an NFL game, because he was in the CFL before. He did training camp with us for last year and this year. Aaron Banks, and if you pull up Dawson's comment right there, the PFF grade, even though he was better than that, that just goes to show how bad Aaron Banks was in that game. And we'll talk about Aaron Banks more in this episode, so stay tuned for that. And then the right tackle is Tom Compton. He's not even going to make this roster, in my opinion. So you just have a ton of scrubs at your second team offensive line, or guys who are just misfits for the meantime, or guys who need more developing. So I mean, it's definitely rough to see him play behind a second team offensive line. Yeah, Sean Coleman played well, but his knee is acting up now. So you're going to put Jalen Moore back there. And Jalen Moore, I think, was supposed to play guard. He's a developmental guy. Putting him in those scenarios right now is really rough for the 49ers because I don't think they're developing Jalen Moore the way they see it going. The Justin School injury really killed him and the development of Jalen Moore. So we'll have to see that. I think that'll get better considering how Jalen Moore looked out of the draft. But other than that, I mean, the second team offensive line is really bad. And then you look at the second team receivers. Richie James has this guy's going to get cut. I mean, yeah, he's done good for us in the past, but he's dropping the ball a lot. You saw that pass, Lance's best pass of the day. He ruined it by dropping it. River Craycraft, I mean, it's River Craycraft. You don't really expect anything more from him. And then Jawan Jennings. Hey, you know, I know I love River Craycraft, but at the end of the day, it's River Craycraft. It's not any Brandon Ayuk or Debo Samuel level. And then Jawan Jennings, probably the best receiver out of all of those three guys for the second team offensive line. So it's really just it's not a good offensive. It's really just not a good second team offense. And as Dawson says right there, the way Kyle likes his O lineman, it's hard to find good depth. And it really is for this team because he likes to develop guys and he's really struggled doing that. Justin School is probably his best bet, but now he tore his ACL, I believe, and I don't think he's ever going to be the same again. Then you have Colt Mckibbins, who I think they gave up in last training camp. He seemed like he was just a misfit all over the place for the 49ers, and I don't think he's going to be on this roster for very long. And then Jalen Moore, I mean, yeah, I think you can develop him. There's still time. But the way it's going, it's hard to see me doing that, especially with him playing swing tackle, because I think the Niners wanted him to play guard coming out of college, and they're going to have to transfer him to a tackle. So, yeah, it's a lot going on. But at the end of the day, you definitely need to bolster that second-team offense. Or even better, play Trey Lance behind the first-teamers. It's that simple. Because that's the best way you're going to get a good gauge of Trey Lance. Because Trey Lance, ultimately, he's going to be with the first teamers. Sometime in the season, you got to get that chemistry with the first teamers, especially taking the snaps from a guy like Alex Mack. And I know he's so good at communicating. I know he's blown away everyone at camp, considering how old he is. And he's still one of the best centers in the league. But you have to have good communication with your center. And you shouldn't be communicating, and you shouldn't be taking snaps from a guy who may not even make this roster in Dakota Shepley. Or Jake Brendel, for that matter. I know Jake Brendel started on the first team because no Alex Mack. You should not be taking snaps for that if you're going to be the future of the franchise.
Well, I mean, a lot of those second team guys are going to make the roster because you got to have backups. But
if you got to have backups, I mean, that's like 3 of the 5 guys, though.
I mean, you're going to have a backup at almost every position, though. You're going to have probably 2 guards, probably 2 tackles, and maybe a center, maybe. But
I think we went.
I'll
look at if you want to keep talking. I'll look up how many offensive linemen we've had in the past.
So to answer Dawson's question, well, really not to answer it, but like to expand upon what he's saying here about Kyle and his O-lineman. Yeah, Kyle does kind of have a preference with his O-lineman. He likes guys who are more athletic and can get out on the move, and oftentimes they're a bit smaller. And so where they're going to struggle is in drop back pass protection, which means like no play action, no kind of RPO, none of that. Just straight up drop back and pass protect. I don't think they're always going to be great, and they haven't always been great in terms of that kind of protection with the Niners under Kyle Shanahan. Even times in 2019 or just whenever under the Shanahan era, whenever the Niners were forced to become a drop back passing team, having to go 3 wide and just third and long, second and long, whatever you want to say, offensive lineman protection hasn't been great. And obviously, and that's part of the preseason too. They're going to be more vanilla. They're not going to do a lot of things they do in the regular season that helps the O-line out in terms of play action, getting guys in the move, running those outside zone plays and things of that nature. You won't see them struggle as much when they're able to do what they were brought in to do and what they're good at. It's almost just kind of a scheme thing, just the way that, like Dawson said, the way Kyle likes his linemen, they're probably never going to be great in drop back pass protection. But when it comes to run blocking and play action protection, they will excel in that. And that's where we will see them be better. But, the downside is that if you ever end up trailing in a game late, you just won't be as good in the drop back passing area. Now, obviously having Alex Mack as far as communication goes across the line, it may help in terms of picking up blitzes, making sure guys know exactly who they're blocking and who they're who they're designed to protect. But just in terms of becoming a drop back passing team, this is not something the Niners are going to be great at. And in the preseason, once again, just the play calling, it wasn't going to really help Lance much because you're not getting him out of the pocket, you're not getting him on rollouts or on bootlegs, anything like that, not getting him on the move using his legs, just kind of forcing him to sit back there. And the Niners may never really, thrive in that kind of setting and that kind of play style. So in terms of just the way Kyle likes his lineman, there might not be anything he can do about that if that's the kind of lineman that Kyle wants.
Exactly. And for the record, I'll say it right now. So 2017 and 2018, the 49ers had 9 offensive linemen on their initial 53-man roster. In 2019, 2020, they've had 8. So I think my last predictions, I predicted 8 myself. And we'll get into more roster predictions maybe later in this episode, maybe later on the podcast. We'll definitely talk about that later on. But it's definitely going to be somewhere around that. So that's like one of those guys is going to get cut. And that's definitely concerns me for a guy who you want to be the future of this franchise. You are going to start him this year at some point. You've already said that you're going to start him some year at this point. How about you give him first team reps? Don't play Garoppolo if you want to do that. If you want to get your first team reps, just do Trey Lance for a quarter with the first teamers. Then maybe you can play him for the second defense for a little bit and then let Sudfeld take over. Do something like that. But if you want Trey Lance to start this year, get a good assessment of how Trey Lance is, how is he developing, and when can he start this year, you got to start him with the first teamers.
And staying with O-line, we can move on to our next topic. Aaron Banks, obviously now out with injury for the next 2 to 3 weeks. He'll miss the rest of training camp and the rest of preseason, which kind of hurts seeing as how he's played up until this point. It's a tough thing because the Niners, obviously, they had the McGlinchey pick, which was the only pick that really has produced into a good lineman for this offensive line, which is obviously a first rounder, so the chances were high. But outside of that pick, the other lineman that Kyle has picked, which is basically McKibbins, and then now Aaron Banks.
School, McKibbins, and Jalen Moore.
Obviously, those guys, they haven't been great so far. So just seeing Aaron Banks struggle in camp, and then we saw him struggle live in that preseason game. Maybe he might fare better if it was the actual game plan he's able to work toward, where he can get on the move and run block and things like that, and really use his strength. But in terms of pass protection, just drop back pass protection, he was not great in that game. He hasn't been great in camp so far. He's really struggled there as well. So just seeing as how it was a second round pick, and the Niners could potentially have some cornerback depth issues, it almost feels like they kind of missed on the picks so far. If we're judging, obviously you can't say it for sure right now because it's too early. It's his rookie year, and we haven't gotten out of preseason yet, so we can't just you can't make a final just analysis on Aaron Banks right now. He's unfinished. He's still developing, but just right now, I mean, the Niners have to be a little worried about how things are going because it's been a lot of bad. A lot more bad than you would hope from a second round pick. You would imagine that he might be able to contribute relatively early, but it feels like he's not even close right now. And people, just the comparison right now is Joshua Garnett, who was another pick that was not great. I think he was a first round pick for the Niners.
He was a first rounder. Kelly's. That's Chip Kelly's one of his only 2 first round picks with the 49ers.
And I mean, you just hope that that's not the case again, with Aaron Banks, and it's a guy that you just completely missed on. He just cannot, get it together. And it's early. He won't play the rest of the preseason, so he won't get those snaps to really work on anything, to get any more film or get any more stuff on tape. But right now, the Niners have to be a little concerned with how much he struggled here to start camp.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that concerns me with him is from what I watched on film, he didn't really seem like a guy who needed that much development. And I know that the 49ers, many people said we reached on him. He was probably going to be a round 3, round 4 guy. I mean, he didn't seem like he seemed like he was going to be a guy with a high ceiling. Not a high ceiling, a high floor. Excuse me. He seemed he was going to be a guy like a high floor, and right now he is well below that floor. So it definitely does concern me. Also concerning the fact that second round picks should be starters. I think most teams, when you take a second rounder, unless it's a quarterback, in some cases offensive line, depending on who the guy is, I wouldn't put Banks in this category. but they should be starters right away, and they should be pretty decent starters right away as well. It definitely concerns me that Aaron Banks is not living up to the hype, especially when you could have had a guy like Creed Humphrey, a guy like Trey Smith. Both are on the Kansas City Chiefs. Both are having great camps. And Creed Humphrey especially was unanimously ranked over Banks on most draft boards. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's definitely really rough to see a guy like Aaron Banks struggle, but I think you got to put him in there because also we drafted him. We need that pass protection from Mike McGlinchey. Mike McGlinchey, great run blocker. The pass pro is where he really struggles in. You got to have that pass pro next to Mike McGlinchey in order for him to keep going on, keep blocking those guys. If he can block those guys even, you got to have a good guard so you don't have two pass rushers just breaking through pass rushing. You can't have that just getting to the quarterback and making Trey Lance run for his life, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we have people who don't practice well, who don't play well in preseason, but then the real games come and you have game plans and you work towards your team's strengths and things change a bit. But as of right now, it's just, you got to be a little worried that he's struggling so much. And hopefully he's able to turn around. We've got time for these additional topics. Let's hop into the receivers for a little bit. Austin Watkins is likely out for the season now, broke his foot. They waived him, and he came back, so now he's on IR because no one claimed him. So likely a redshirt year for Austin Watkins pretty much, and he'll probably get another shot next year. But for the guys, who do still have a shot to get one of this last spot or last two, depending on how many receivers the Niners choose to keep, it feels like Jawan Jennings is probably the favorite to take that fifth spot. We know the first four are probably pretty much set with Ayuk, Debo, Sanu, and Sherfield. Jennings is probably number 5 and number 6. It feels like it won't be Watkins now. We know we haven't seen Jalen Hurd play. He hasn't practiced the last two practices, so he's still been out dealing with injuries and things of that nature. Simba Webster had a nice showing in the return game in that preseason game on Saturday, so maybe he's still in the mix. But Richie James, a spot that you feel like he could have easily grabbed, the guy who's been on this roster the last 4 years, has experience in the return game, which he hasn't been great in the return game at times, but has experience with it, and also, contributed in a pretty solid way at times at receiver when there were injuries. He struggled apparently in camp, from what we've heard, and we saw in that first preseason game, couldn't catch passes. Just felt like a job he should have snagged. And right now, it's kind of tough to see who exactly can take this last spot. Travis Benjamin, I guess, is still in the mix. He's still on the roster. Didn't have the greatest showing in that preseason game. As far as, he's unable to get separation at times in that game against the second team. But maybe Benjamin's still in the mix. It's kind of hard to get a gauge on who exactly can take this final spot because that's really, there's no favorite right now.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And personally, I'll just give my receiver predictions at this point. I posted this, I believe, on Sunday. So I had Ayuk, Debo. Those guys will make the roster. At the very least, they'll make the practice squad. They should make the roster. I'll say that. But no, they're making the roster. They're locks. You have Mohamed Sanu, Trent Sherfield. Those guys are locks. Jawan Jennings is close to being a lock. I wouldn't call him a lock yet, but it's close. And then I also had Simba Webster as wide receiver 6 and Jalen Hurd as wide receiver 7. The reason I'm keeping 7 is simply because of Jalen Hurd. I don't think it's hard to give up on a third-round pick, especially a guy who hasn't played yet and had so much potential and you wanted to do so much with in this offense. I feel like the 49ers want to keep a guy like Jalen Hurd on this roster and just stash him. If he's inactive for a little bit, for like the first few games, so be it. It's going to help him out at the end of the day. And Simba Webster, we need a kick returner other than Ayuk. I know Ayuk is fantastic at kick returning and punt returning, but it's really hard having your wide receiver 1 go out there and put that much stress on him doing that. I think Simba Webster is a much better option to kick return over Ayuk, even though Ayuk is probably the best returner on your team. If you want to play a bit more safe, go Simba Webster. You need to have that insurance right there. So I'm going to go Simba Webster for that last spot in the meantime. Richie James, I don't think really has proven enough that he's worthy of making this roster this year. I know he's been good in the past, but you know what? Time changes. And as time changes, new guys come in, and the new guys are dominating Richie James in camp right now. Richie James has looked absolutely terrible from what I've heard. And if you're going to look terrible in camp, you should be able to make this roster when guys are outperforming you on a daily basis. So those are my 7 guys. I know you also have River Craycraft in the mix. Let's not ignore him. He's pretty decent. It's really hard for me to say he's going to make this roster simply because of the other guys ahead of him. I think they are better than him. So for that reason, I don't think River Craycraft's going to make this roster, not because he's doing anything wrong. It's just that the other guys are better than him. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to go 7 receivers. If they do go 6, I would think they bring Jalen Hurd onto this roster. I'm still convinced that he's making this roster. I know he hasn't done much. I know we have the injury history, but this is a 3rd-round pick who has so much potential, and we haven't got to see it, and Kyle Shanahan hasn't got to use it. He has a plan for this guy, and I know he said that his spot is in jeopardy, but I think Jalen Hurd, that practice after he came back, he's like, my spot's in jeopardy? Okay, well, I'm going to show you this, and absolutely has the best day of his life in camp. And it was probably the best receiver that day from what I've heard as well. So at the end of the day, I think Jalen Hurd is going to make this roster. I hope they keep 7 so Simba Webster also makes this roster, and we don't have to stash Jalen Hurd and can have a legit 6 receivers on this team.
Jalen Hurd, man.
It's tough, man.
I just kind of feel like if he can't make the roster this year, he just got to end it at that point. I mean, it's a failure, and it's not.
Well, also the other thing with Jalen,
fault is.
Can I just say the other thing with Jalen Hurd is I don't think Kyle Shanahan is going to want another team to pick him up because he sees so much potential in him.
I mean, if
teams do that a lot, where they keep their guy because they don't want another team picking him up, even though he's not that good.
I mean, it's just to a point where it feels like you can't. I don't know. He hasn't done much. He had the one preseason game where he had the 2 touchdowns, and that's really it. He hasn't really practiced much since then. Even in practice, he hasn't really had the best of practices. Not really getting separation. Keeping him is just basically like trying to just hope that somehow it still works when it hasn't been working. And Kyle Shanahan hasn't really been shy to cut bait on guys who aren't really working. Dante Pettis is another guy who just got cut, and he was a 2nd-round pick, just because it just wasn't panning out. So I won't really put it past him to let Hurd go if he just is still dealing with injuries. And I don't think he will get another shot. I mean, maybe he might from another team. Maybe the Seahawks do their thing where they just pick up Niner players and they're like, oh, the Niners cut this guy. Let's go and sign him. But
classic Seahawks.
But I mean, just he hasn't done much, and just keep him for another year is just trying to hold off the inevitable. It feels like if they do that, if he can't, like this week is big for him at this point.
This week is big for him. And this is probably his. I mean, this preseason he's really got to prove to himself and every team out there why he's worthy of making it.
He might not get another week if he doesn't do anything this week. I mean, we got the joint practices. We have the 2nd preseason game. He didn't play in the 1st preseason game just because
he's got to play in this one too, or else it's going to be really bad for him.
If he can't get out there and play before this week is over, he might not get a 3rd week. He might not get a 3rd shot, a 3rd chance to make this roster. Just seeing how things have been progressing for him, and it's unfortunate. The 3rd-round pick that they could have used on. My voice is going out. Jesus Christ, ignore that part.
They could have used on a guy like Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, they don't bring it up, but yeah, I mean, there's so many other ways that could went with that pick, and just to see him not even get a regular season snap, it would just be just the worst.
And also to your point, Austin Watkins, nobody picked him up today, so he's reverted back to IR. As soon as he comes off of IR after those first 3 games, he should be back, or sometime after that, but he should be back on this roster. He's coming for someone's spot, I believe. Or they might stash him on the practice squad, but he could be coming for a guy like Jalen Hurd's spot.
They might just leave him on IR for the whole season and just try it again next year.
It's a 6 to 8 week injury. I don't think you would leave someone on IR for that long.
No, I mean, you could. There's times when someone gets hurt and you just leave them on IR for the whole season. And just
maybe. I think for a rookie, you want to develop him though.
I mean, undrafted. I don't know how much they're going to
still a rookie.
That he's undrafted, man. but I mean, yeah. I mean, we'll see. But I'm pretty sure he'll be on the IR for probably the entire season. Just redshirt it, try it again next year. Let her make this roster, make the roster, and then maybe he comes up if there's injury problems, which hopefully there isn't. So, yeah, as far as that goes, I mean, Herb might be out of chances right now, and this is probably his last chance, and he's got to get out there and play. Otherwise, he's probably done. All right, moving on. Last thing we'll get into today before we get out of here. Demo Lenore and Talanoa Hufanga had good games against the Chiefs on Saturday. Sam, how much stock you put into those games? How much do you believe that is who they are, or that's just a one-game anomaly?
I think Hufanga is the guy I'm going to put more stock into. And, we always see this fifth-round Lynch. George Kittle, he hit on. Dre Greenlaw, he hit on. As soon as I saw that Talanoa Hufanga film, I'm like, we're hitting on this guy. Because this dude, he has some flaws, and he definitely showed some of those flaws in this game. The one in particular is his routes to the ball are still very poor. He's got to do better at that. But other than that, man, Talanoa Hufanga I saw him on every play that he was in. He was out there making a ton of plays, doing everything he could to be out there and just help this team win. And we didn't win, but I mean, still, what's good, Cole? But other than that, I mean, it's Talanoa Hufanga had a phenomenal game. And I think you're really looking forward to seeing him maybe start this year. I know Jaquaski Tartt's going to start the year on PUP. Tavon Wilson should be the starter, but Talanoa Hufanga could very much take that place. And I do think Jaquaski Tartt contract year, I don't think they're bringing him back because you got a guy like Talanoa Hufanga behind him. And yeah, he's a fifth-round pick, but I think this is the guy that's going to hit this year. This guy is going to contribute significantly maybe not this year, but definitely in years to come, because I think this guy could be an absolute beast in the NFL. When you look at him, you look at a poor man's version of Jamal Adams. And I think that's the perfect comparison for him. I know a lot of people are saying Troy Polamalu, but the reason you want to call it Troy Polamalu is because he went to USC and he had long hair. He's a poor man's Jamal Adams, and he can become Jamal Adams if he works hard. And it looks like he is. At the day I was at training camp, he was the first guy on the field, last guy off, and everyone was taking note of that. After that, he kept doing that. So this guy wants to work. This guy's going to be a beast coming in the NFL. Now, Diamador Lenore, I was interested to see him play and give him some stop. I was interested to see that he was guarding a guy like Tyreek Hill in man coverage. That shows that the 49ers trust Diamador Lenore a lot. And a lot more than Ambry Thomas, too. I believe he got more snaps than Ambry Thomas. Maybe I'm wrong, but he definitely made more of an impact than Ambry Thomas. So maybe this is the cornerback that we're looking for to be the QB2 of the future. So, cornerback 2 of the future, I should say. So I think Diamador Lenore, you got to invest some stock into him, but I'm definitely way more invested in Talanoa Hufanga for the sole reason that I was invested in him way before. And overall, I think Hufanga's impressed a bit more in camp than Diamador Lenore is, from what I've heard and what I've seen.
So I put stock in both of these. Number one, because the talk from camp was that Lenore looked better than Thomas, and in the game, Lenore looked better than Thomas. And, that's just kind of, remained true. And also Hufanga had some good days in camp, and then we saw him have a good day in that preseason game. Always around the ball, took good angles to the ball carrier to bring him down. Also was everywhere in special teams. So at the very least, he'll make the roster as a special teamer, but he may even get some snaps just in the regular defensive package as well. Just has a good nose for the ball and just always finds that's one thing you like. Just guys who have a nose to the ball and can always make a play and make a tackle. We saw one snap when Thomas got beat. He was trailing the receiver, and Hufanga recognized that immediately and came up and stuck him, short of the line, and it was obviously led to a punt. So that's things you like to see from him. And Lenore was very solid in man coverage in this game. Obviously, he had to pick off with deflection, being in a good position. I wouldn't say he got beat. He was just a tight end who was on a crossing route. But he showed good man coverage, and like you noted, Tyreek Hill, had coverage on Tyreek Hill and held his own in that situation too. So, I think that it's something, for Niner fans to be a little excited about, just to see that Lenore and Hufanga, both of your 5th round defensive backs, are looking pretty good so far. And that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, obviously, like you noted, with George Kittle and Dre Greenlaw, have worked some magic in the 5th round, and they got 2 guys who so far are showing that they might be able to make some plays in this league and at least stick on the roster for some years to come. So far, it's so good. And I like what I saw from both of those guys. At least hearing from what we heard throughout camp and then seeing what we saw in that game. It seems like they'll continue to get better, throughout training camp and throughout the season. and that should make people excited. And I'm definitely putting stock in both of those performances. I think they are looking pretty good. And then Ambry Thomas, as far as how he looked, I guess we'll talk about him too, the other defensive back. He was in good position, at times in that game, but it felt like he just couldn't really make plays on the ball, whether it was getting his head around late or just not getting the hand on the ball. There was one third down. He was like right there, and somehow the ball still got through and led to a first down. They kind of picked on him a little bit in that game, but he didn't look as bad as it sounded like he's looking in camp early on. So I guess, progress there. So hopefully he can kind of come around too and start to look better and hopefully be a guy that can contribute for this team as well.
And let me just say with Ambry Thomas, I don't think there's any need to be concerned with him because Ambry Thomas was supposed to be a developmental guy, unlike a guy like Aaron Banks. Ambry Thomas, he opted out last year, probably should not have done that. He should have stayed another year in college, I should say. He should have done one of the two. He was supposed to be a developmental guy, and he is a developmental guy, as you have been able to see in camp and in the preseason. Definitely some raw ability still. You've seen the flashes of potential sometimes in camp, sometimes in the preseason game. You saw that a little bit. But other than that, Ambry Thomas, this is a guy not to be worried about. I don't think he was going to start over a guy like Emmanuel Mosley. So if he comes in, luckily Diamador Lenore is exceeding expectations, so he can play over him. So honestly, I think this is actually really good for a guy like Ambry Thomas because you want him being developed. You don't want him in the games most of the time. You want him on the sideline learning the plays before you go in. You want him to take those practice reps first and then getting in the game. But overall, I think Ambry Thomas is he's in a really good position right now to succeed with this team. There's no need to be concerned with him, in my opinion, at this point.
And all right, that's going to do it for us. Actually, you know what? Niners have another game this week, so we gotta give it a little
preview that a little bit. Preview the joint practices.
Yeah, we got joint practices coming up. With the
this
Chargers.
Is the first time we've had joint practices in a minute. I think we did against like Denver a few years ago.
Yeah, we had against the Broncos in 2019. Obviously, none last year because of COVID. You don't want teams being around each other in that kind of just environment. But yeah, we got joint practices, and really all eyes will be on Trey Lance for the most part, and just kind of seeing how he plays against another defense. Getting probably different looks. We know these teams in joint practice is not like a game. They kind of work together like, hey, coach, can you run this concept for our guys so we can kind of see how he sees this, put this on film. We can kind of work on it, see how he responds or reacts to this kind of defense. And just kind of work together and helping to improve each other's teams. Obviously, we know these two teams won't see each other unless it's a Super Bowl. So they won't have to worry about a future appearance unless it's at the very end, which at that point you got 19, 20 games of film on the team you're playing against anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, we'll get to see a lot from this team, put them in a lot of different situations, and really just the biggest thing we want to see is just Trey Lance to see how he plays. Will his play go down now that he's playing against guys who he's not familiar with, guys who can throw some different looks at him that he hasn't seen? So yeah, big week for Trey Lance, and I was leading into the game, see if we can build on some things that he made some mistakes from in that Chiefs game. Can he look better? Can he improve upon his mistakes? Can he put forth a better effort on Sunday? The game's on Sunday this week, so we'll get to see that too from the joint practices. Yeah,
I think obviously the main stage is going to be Trey Lance. All eyes are going to be him. You want to see how well he does. Also, it's going to be interesting to see how Nate Sudfeld does. He didn't get any play time last week. It's a bit surprising how he got no play time last week, and then they cut Rosen, the guy who did get
apparently the word on that was that they knew they were going to cut Rosen, and so they let him play the fourth quarter as an audition to other teams because they knew they were going to cut him anyway. So really, it was just kind of doing him a favor to help him maybe try to land with another spot. But with that performance, I don't know if he will.
Gotcha. But it's going to be interesting to see Trey Lance and Nate Sudfeld play. It's also going to be interesting to see, obviously, the receivers again. There's still a big competition there. Defensive tackle, there's still a big competition there. Linebacker competition has really heated up recently, especially with Jonas Griffin's been doing well. They added Michael Kendricks. The linebacker competition is going to be something to watch because that's been really heating up in the recent days and weeks, I should say. And obviously, I think you want to see everyone perform well. Jalen Hurts, the one guy I'm really hoping who plays this week. I don't know if he is, but if he wants a chance to make this roster, he's got to get back on the field soon. I unfortunately can't watch the game. I got a flight to catch, but man, I cannot wait to watch the highlights and see what Twitter's like, see all the clips. Going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch this game probably about 4 or 5 different times. I got Game Pass and there's no all 22, unfortunately, so I can't see the whole field, but I will probably watch it numerous
times.
There's
no all 22 for preseason, really?
Well, as of right now, there's no all 22 period for Game Pass because there's still apparently they're working on something. I don't know. I guess
they're probably just improving something, testing it. They're testing it out in preseason and then they'll give it out.
Apparently they said it would take some months in development, whatever they're doing. I don't know. We might not get all 22 until the end of the season, which is unfortunate because I was looking forward to be able to have a better grasp of what's going on the field for game days, but won't have that. Maybe someone will have access to it that can, just kind of.
Someone's got to have access because the teams need that for training and film for.
The teams have the teams have the film. It's not like Game Pass.
Okay, gotcha.
All 22 is still being
just
recorded.
The fans don't have access.
Yeah, and
gotcha. Okay, I was about to say that doesn't make sense if the teams don't have it.
Oh no, yeah, the teams always have film.
Yeah, they gotta have it
on practice. So yeah, they always have that. But yeah, I don't have access to all 22. So I mean, $100 just to watch the TV angle, which it's unfortunate for me. But maybe soon we'll get all 22 access. But I'll probably watch the game numerous times to try to see different things, focus on different players, and just kind of give them more. I guess do the best I can as far as analysis when it comes to evaluating the game. But Dawson, that commentary.
Oh God,
I don't know.
Bang Bang. Let me just say, Bang Bang Niner Gang was never a good song, and that song, that saying, like people overuse that.
Be careful who you say that to, because you will get into an.
Oh no, I will be careful who I say that to. It's a good saying. It just got taken and overused because I know the person. Raj, shout out. I think Raj was the first one that started it. Shout out to Raj. Obviously a good saying back then, but people started to overuse it and it kind of got far. But you know what? Raj started it. Raj is the man. So shout out to him. But I mean, it was interesting. The Spanish commentary was so much better. Necesito preparar para mi clases de español en la universidad y por eso el comentario de español es mejor que el comentario del inglés in Greg Papa in Tim Ryan.
Bro, so
all I said was the commentary is better in Spanish.
Yeah, so I mean, I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, but I forgot pretty much all of it.
That's what happens. Necesito practicar, Kobe.
Oh my God, bro. I mean, yeah, E40 is a go, obviously, but that's
Bay Area legend. You cannot disrespect the Bay Area legend. Let me just say that.
Song,
right,
it was like, it was cool for.
It was okay. It was kind of a lame song, if I'm being real. You could have done better. Look what Lil Wayne did for the Packers. So much better. And yeah, I could be a homer with Lil Wayne. He's the greatest rapper of all time, in my opinion, or one of the very greatest rappers of all time. I'm not going to go on that tangent. He's my favorite rapper of all time. We'll leave it at that.
This is not talking rap. This is talking Niners.
This is talking Niners, not rap. And I've said that and then people just say, oh, it's Biggie. Oh, it's Tupac. But listen, you know what?
My takes and my music tastes that have been on the timeline is enough. I don't think I need to bring it to the podcast. I'd be getting cooked out there on the timeline for my takes. But hey, I like what I like. I don't like what I don't like. Okay.
Hey man, stand by your own takes. That's all you gotta do. That's how you become a successful podcaster.
Yeah, like the commentary just from Greg Papa and Tim Ryan. No disrespect to Tim Ryan and Greg Papa. Obviously, Tim Ryan offers some solid, analysis of what's going on in the field, but just some of the sayings and trying to have nicknames for everything is like, oh, what are we doing? Like the
Huff nickname,
bro. The Trey area thing on the touchdown pass ruined that pass for me. Like I have to watch that throw on mute now because I was like, bro, why'd you say that? Like that wasn't even. I don't know, man. I mean, some people some people do like that call. I had a tweet saying like, hey man, this is hard to listen to. Tim Ryan and Greg Papa. People agree with me, but there are some people who said, man, what are you talking about, bro? It's like, hey man, I don't know what to tell you. It's just hard to listen to. But I might watch the game on mute. Oh, we gotta listen to the Chargers announcers too. Oh
yeah, you're in South Carolina, so I mean,
no, I watched it on Game Pass, so I listen to the Niners commentary the first time, but we're on the road, so I don't think I have access to the Niners broadcast. So I have to listen to the Chargers broadcast, which is not going to. It's not going to be enjoyable. They're not going to say anything nice about the Niners, which I mean they don't need to, but yeah, he did ruin that.
He's going on the radio, but bring back the touchdown San Francisco. That's actually good.
That's solid. I see. I didn't like that at first, but
Not like Trey area.
Why did you
like
say
that.
it, Sam? Oh my god!
You know what? You can clip that out if you want. That was what it's like. I apologize.
You know what? To your defense, that was better than Papa's. It was better than Papa's. But
voice cracking and everything.
Still better than Papa's. If you guys are trying to get to that Charger game, tickets, I'm just saying this now because I saw it, $27 for a ticket to that game. So I mean, if you got cash and you're vaccinated, you got some free time.
Cheaper than the Giants ticket game I went today. That's a lot. That's a bargain. You
said how much you pay?
Like $40. It was a good ticket. It was right behind. It was like third deck right behind the plate. I went with the guy DeMonk. Shout out to him, Cabot, who commented. Shout out to him.
What are we doing now? Nothing. All right, we're done.
We're just rambling, rambling, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
We haven't rambled like this in a long time. It's actually kind of
talking and rambling.
Hey,
love doing that.
See, John agrees with me, Sam.
Exactly. I'm not going to do it again, but you know it's much better than Greg Papa.
That and put it on. That's what we'll use every time Trey Lance makes a good play. I'll just be like, "Hey, Sam, hit it." Trey.
No, that was even worse. That was just my
God. All right, we should probably
enough of that.
Now. Before we get out, okay, I always forget to do this. I should probably do this at the beginning of the show, so I can't forget anymore. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. I'm forgetting words. I've been on here too long. Yeah, 5 stars, please. Helps us out. Helps you guys out. How? Somehow. But yeah, do that. And subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can find all the links to all of these things in the description. Also follow us on Twitter for all of our fantastic tweets. You can follow me at Kobe Ransom 49GM. And you can follow Sam at NinerWire Sam. Sam, you put your last name in your screen name. It caught me off.
I did. Hey, gotta be a bit more professional. Gotta find some people.
This man's all professional on me now. Jesus
all professional. Christ. And also, the people copied the trend after that. I saw a few other people put their last name after just having their first name forever.
Hey, God, I mean, listen, man, it's your name. You know, wear your name.
It's my name. Be proud of it.
You know what I'm saying? Be professional.
There was just some weird people following me. I had to clear them up before I did that.
But yeah, that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for listening. We cannot thank you guys enough for listening to us literally do this for 50 plus minutes.
Say goodbye to the setup, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube. That's going to be until November, December.
Probably going to be a plain wall or maybe a bunk.
It's going to be a plain wall, or maybe I might be doing it on my bed. I don't even know. They haven't even shown me what my room's like, which it's kind of pissing me off. But you know what? I get to find out on Tuesday.
You might go to the library. Like, look at all these books.
Look at all these books.
All right, we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for listening. As always, go Niners.
See ya.